Hello. I had a request today for some hamstring work. So, just to have on hand, we're going to have something that we can put under the thighs today for some really deep, pointed stretching in the hamstrings. So, I have on hand a rolling pin, but you, of course, can use a foam roller or a thermos or a can of soup or lots of things. I also have a cat toy. So anything from a golf ball to a tennis ball to a dog ball. Um, Dryer balls. I love dryer balls with the pokey prongs on them. They're great too. Um, so we'll just have those on hand and let's settle into our body with our breathing exercise. Um, For our breathing exercise today, I know we normally sit cross-legged or a little bit lifted. Let's go ahead and do our breathing exercise from a gentle passive straddle. So if a straddle is not passive for you because you're really having to cramp up your hip flexors to keep you upright, I encourage you to sit on a pillow or even the edge of a low chair or couch so the legs are out wide and you can sit with a tall spine relatively comfortably. I'm feeling just a mild stretch through here. And I haven't moved a lot today, so I am feeling a little bit of the back muscles starting to wake up to hold me up. But other than that, I could sit here like this, for 15 minutes relatively comfortably before needing to move. So find a place that's similar for you. And let's play with leaning forward just a little bit. It's going to increase the stretch in here, but it's going to release hip flexors and low back. Lean forward just a moment. And then lean back until you feel yourself come into a neutral alignment with those shoulders rolled back. And for our breathing exercise today, we're going to imagine that we're breathing in through our toes. So we're breathing in through our toes, up the backs of the legs, up the back of the body. Feel that spine elongate all the way up through the top of the head. And then we're simply going to release all the way back down and out the toes. Breathing in nice and slow. Gently all the way up. There's no need to force anything. Feeling your jaw, your neck, your spine, your hips, the back of the legs release all the way back out. We'll start to add some larger movements to this breath. When we inhale, we'll lift the heart. And when we exhale, we're going to tuck the tail round forward. Let the back of your neck stretch long. Inhale, lift the heart. Tip the tail out back behind you. Exhale, tuck the tail and the chin. I'm using my arms for a little bit of extra support here, just a tad. And because my pelvis is rocking, I can feel my legs kind of sliding on the floor just a little bit. Let's add some arm movement here. When the chest comes up and the tail goes back, we'll widen the hands, rolling the shoulders back like you're trying to show me your armpits. Exhale, reverse that, curl it all in, give yourself a hug. Fully exhaled now, we'll breathe in, open up. Show me those armpits. The next time you are up and open, we're going to rotate towards one foot and we're going to lengthen over towards the toes and come back up, open, rotate to the other side. Exhale, like you're just pushing a wave of water towards those toes. And then the natural coming back to the center. Exhaling to press everything out over those toes. Inhale, pulling it all back in, lifting the torso. You might notice that you're starting to reach out longer over the legs, or breathing becomes easier. Maybe your nose starts to graze your knee. And then we'll take this to the center. Exhale, swoosh that water away from you. And then like a wave of water coming back, we'll bring ourselves up. The next time that you are up, let's bring one leg in. So I'm doing my right one. I'm going to bend my right one in. My foot comes somewhere against the inner thigh. That depends on what my knee is doing today. So if my knee is a little more tender, it might be a little bit further down my leg. If my knee is feeling great, my heel might be right in front of my hips. I'm going to take my hand against that leg or knee and use it to help me rotate towards the long leg. And then reach out along the leg, get cozy. We're going to be here a little while. So you might feel this in the inner thigh. You might feel it in the hamstrings, the back of the thigh. More than likely, you also or mainly feel it in the quadratus lumborum, the low back here. If you'd like to feel more in the back of the leg, flex your foot. Pull your toes back towards you. And bring it back up. We're going to rotate the other way now towards the bent knee. And we're going to sit as tall as possible. And then take, if you've got your left leg long, you're going to take the left arm out along the leg, and this is going to help support you. The right arm is going to come up. So my goal here is opening up the side and even the side front of my body. And that can be quite intense, but by loosening and relaxing these muscles above and around the pelvis, we can help the hamstrings not feel like they have to do all the work of balancing the pelvis and back. And release. We're going to take the legs back out to a straddle. Tip that pelvis as far forward as possible. So don't sit on your tail, stick it out behind you. Instead, really straight back here. Get it as long as possible and tip forward until you would end up having a round in your low back. Once that starts to round it all, you've gone far enough. Hang out here and think about tipping your pelvis even further. And the micro movements for this are generally inhale, lengthen through the spine. Exhale, tip the pelvis a little further. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, tip. And as we get further into our range of motion, those movements get smaller and smaller. So even if I was looking at you and you were telling me what you were doing, I couldn't actually physically see it. But you can feel it. Stay low. Bring yourself over one leg. We did something like this earlier, but moving. Now we're going to do it static. I want you to make sure that this back thigh and buttock stay glued to the ground. But get cozy with your leg. Again, if you want to increase this focus on the back of the leg, flex the foot. You can do that either by holding it, just by engaging the front of the shin here to pull your toes up, or maybe you use a yoga strap or belt to grab that foot and bring it closer to you. And as always, we're not jerking or bouncing. We might sway in class, but there's never an idea of forcing ourselves to go further. go, sway back to the center. Chances are, even with that long spine, you're a little bit closer to the ground now. And we'll take it over to the second side. Keeping that back leg on the ground. Go ahead and come back to the center again. Start at the pelvis, tip it back behind you. Stick out your tail, lengthen your spine, lower down as far as you can before the spine rounds. So I'm using my hands, I'm actually like pulling almost so that I can keep that spine long. Trying not to collect tension in the shoulders though. So soften the jaw. Imagine warm water running down the back of the neck. Oftentimes when we're loosening the hips, that tension runs up to our shoulders to be held there instead. If you are feeling like this tension is running upwards, I encourage you to think of it either running down and off the tail or down the legs and out the toes like we practiced our exhaling breath earlier. And make your way back up. We've got our second side now that we'll pull in. For me, that's my left leg. Just like before, notice the knee and what it is in need of today. We'll bring our hand to the leg to help support us as we rotate towards the long leg. And lay out over the top of it. And if there was an observer to this class, it might look to them like we have just been doing the same thing over and over and over again, straddle, 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 straddle. But I hope that you're feeling those subtle differences in each straddle that we're doing by focusing on different areas of the body, by bending a knee, by rotating the torso differently, by maybe pulling back the toes. Each of these has offered the body a slightly different angle and opportunity to let go. bent knee. Take your supporting arm behind you and your other arm up and over, rotating your heart towards the ceiling. And release. All right, we're gonna do our first classic hamstring stretch. So grab your tools and have them in arm's reach. Bring those heels out in front of you. And I like to actually grab the tush flesh and pull it out behind. That's going to help my pelvis tip like we've been practicing. So I notice that my pinky toes want to run away from me. And there is a classic lineage of yoga that has you grab your big toes and pull them back. I notice for me, I actually need the opposite. I really need to focus on bringing those pinky toes closer to me so I can get the stretch up the sides here. And maybe that's the difference between the style of shoes that we wear now, or the fact that the way I use my feet as a dancer is very different. But I know that bringing those pinky toes back is important for me. And again, maybe you do that with your hands, maybe you do it with a strap, maybe you just do it with the engagement of your legs. So we've got our feet taken care of. Ooh, you can do it by putting your feet against a wall too. Now that we've got the feet engaged, we're going to really tip out that tail and lengthen the spine. So even though my hamstrings are relatively flexible, if I'm keeping my spine very, very long and being good about not rounding my spine, this is about as far as I go. Part of that is my belly is squishing into my thighs. And part of it is my hamstrings are starting to get a little bit of a decent stretch here. Our hamstrings run from the knee up to attaching at the pelvis. And so anytime we are bringing our thigh upward, we're stretching the hamstring. Anytime we're bringing our thigh upward with the leg extended, we're stretching it even more. All right, now we're going to switch this. We're going to let ourselves round now and let yourself hang over the legs. I absolutely love to do this pose with a partner. I wish I could show that to you, but the person would be sitting with their back to you as well. And you take turns gently leaning one direction. So the person would be leaning their back into my back this way. Lots of communication, lots of gentle movement together. And then I would take my turn pressing into their back, helping them fold forward. So if you have someone with you available, that's a fun thing to explore together gently. All right, let that go. We're going to stretch. We did the insides of the thighs real well to help them separate and move separately from the hamstring. We're going to shift to the outside. So let's bring up one leg and cross it over. And instantly I feel my tail wants to roll under. So I'm going to counter that by using my back muscles, assisting with my arms here. I'm going to think of bringing the knee towards the opposite armpit, and I'm going to give it a hug. And for right now, my heart is facing my toes down there. And you might feel this anywhere from the low back, down through the rump, all the way up to the knee, just depending on where you're the tightest, where those snags are. And then if I want to, I'm going to tip my tail out even further and kind of roll onto that buttock in particular. From there, I can rotate the spine if I like. So I'm going to put this knee even more in my armpit. And then I encourage you to kind of roll around where your weight is and explore what it is you're in need of. What do those different shapes feel like? Maybe we even take that long leg that's on the ground and pull it under as well. Now, if you did that, chances are this rump came up off the ground. We're going to encourage it back down again. And release. We're going to stick that long leg back out where it was, right in front of our heart. And our pelvis is square to that foot as well. So I don't have this hip back, totally square, maybe even a little bit past square. So maybe my pelvis is facing towards the pinky toe instead of the big toe. I'm going to take this leg here out to the side, and I'm going to do the ball because I like that really pinpointed pressure on my leg, but maybe the roller is better for you. And I'm going to stick that relatively high up so you can feel, like I said, where the hamstring attaches up here. You've got that, what people call the sits bone, the tip of the pelvis there, where the attachment is. We're going to find a spot somewhere around there. As you go towards the inner thigh, just make sure that you can't feel your own pulse, right? We don't want to be cutting off our blood flow. So stick that ball somewhere under there where you're not feeling your own pulse. Hopefully you're finding a spot where it doesn't feel great. Find a spot where it doesn't feel fantastic, but it doesn't feel like it's injuring you either. Rotating that pelvis towards the pinky toe. Lean forward over the leg. There we go. As soon as I leaned forward, it kind of took pressure off where it was, so I had to readjust the ball and find the spot. If you have something pretty large underneath of you, it can be challenging to keep the leg long. So maybe you put something um, under your ankle to keep the knee extended. Feel free to, as we adjust this ball, we're going to keep moving it down towards, woo, yeah, we're going to keep finding spots a little bit closer to the knee. Hang out there until you feel it kind of melt and dissolve. And then the next time you move it, you can move it more left and right, but keep trying to have that like traveling down the leg. It's getting hard for me to like keep my back straight because I found such a spot. So I'm going to focus on that breathing and that idea of the air rushing up the back of my body, and especially down the back of my body as I'm feeling about this tension running out the leg, down the toes, letting it go out away from me. As we get closer, I'm probably only about a third of the way down the hamstring right now, but I do want to, in case you're ahead of me, want to mention that if you took your kneecap, made that circle, and took that circle and imagined it going to the back of the knee right there, where that kneecap circle would be, we're not going to place the ball or roller in that spot. There's the patellar nerve in there that we don't want to pinch and put a lot of pressure on. So we will be avoiding that circle. But other than that, if it feels like a productive place to put it, feel free to put it there and explore. I'm finding that as I get closer to the knee, it is bending the knee more. So again, I can put something under the ankle to get my leg straight again, or I'm also starting to lean on my leg to put some more weight on it. I can do that with my upper body. I can also do it with my other leg. For me, that feels a little bit less precise and possibly a little too much. So just feel your own body. I just stuck it in a spot where it shot tingles down my leg. So I'm moving it. Like I moved it immediately. I'm like, okay, nope. I felt something nervous system going on there. I'm gonna pull it off there and adjust it a little bit. Didn't take much adjusting for me to find that the muscle was tight right next to there as well. But I wasn't on the nerve. All right, I'm getting about 2/3 of the way down the hamstring now. I'm kind of getting to where it might be cool to move my leg over the ball a little bit. If you have a ball or you have even a roller, we can do this rotation. I'm gonna do it by moving my leg with my arms. That way the muscles that I'm trying to relax don't have any excuse to engage. Oh, and I noticed that my pelvis has slowly turned towards the inside. I'm going to tighten that back up again. Ooh, there's my hamstring. hamstring a little bit of love here. To be easy on your hands, I'm going to teach you a massage. You're going to interlace your fingers. They're not totally tight because our hamstrings or thighs are probably bigger than that. So we've got a little bit of knuckle crossing here, and I'm going to do that around my thigh, and I'm going to bring my elbows together and together, and that pushes my palms together. I'm just going to give a little love here to the hamstring. And you'll notice I tend to rock as well, and the reason for this is when my torso goes back, my elbows instantly come together. So I'm not taxing my chest, my pecs, and my triceps here. My body's helping with all of that. I'm just getting some good pinches, and I can do it a little bit more to the left, get those inner thighs in there. I can do it a little bit more to the right, get some IT band in there. All right, let's test out what we've done here. Let's take our leg right in front of us, level out that pelvis, and reach over the leg. See how we're feeling. Excellent. One thing I noticed was that my hamstring felt great. Now I'm feeling that my glutes and my calves are tight because the hamstring's like, I'm good to go, guys. So let's head over to the other side. We'll get that ball under there. Oh, you know what? We haven't done the other stretches, excuse me. Okay, let's do the right leg is long, or the one that you just stretched out is long. The other one's going to come up and over. No, we did that. Here we go. Ha! The one that was just long is now going to come up and over. We'll start by just tipping that tail out behind us, pulling the knee towards the opposite armpit. If you feel like you've already done this leg, switch and do the other one. Again, we can play with where is our weight on that hip. We want to keep the hip down, but where exactly on the hip is our weight? And we can play with rotating. So we really bring our knee into our armpit now. And the big thing that we want to avoid if we're rotating the spine is being rounded. Okay, that's not going to get the stretch that we're looking for. So sometimes I just did it without thinking about it. I grabbed my tummy, my abdomen flesh, and I lifted and pulled it over to the other side of my leg. So I didn't feel like I was pushing against it and fighting it. It's out of the way, helping me be able to get tighter into this stretch with less resistance. Just like before, we can explore the hip. So primarily this stretch is used to stretch the gluteus minimus, that's your upper butt. And your upper butt is attached to your IT band, which runs down the outside of your leg to your knee and then a little bit beyond. And so the question is, if we're working on our hamstrings, why am I trying to stretch the upper butt and the IT band? And the answer is, if your hamstring, let's say this arm is your hamstring muscle supporting the back of your leg, and this arm is your IT band, and they rest next to each other. If they're stuck together, your hamstring isn't going to want to move freely and relax. And so our fascia, our connective tissues, can get those two stuck together. So if I can get this IT band stretching and moving, now our hamstring has the ability to do the same. All right, you can tuck the other leg in if you want to. And then we'll unwind. Okay, so it's that bottom leg now that we're going to put the ball under. Ball or roller or whatever you have. Again, we're going